Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Today, let me teach you how to create a shortcut that adds a watermark to an image. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to macmost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So I'm going to show you how to use the Shortcuts app in macOS Monterey to allow you to take an image and apply a watermark to it. An overlay image that will appear in a corner. So while that may seem like the real goal here, the actual goal is for me to teach you how to do some things in the Shortcuts app. We're going to look at each action as we add it and why we're adding it and what it does. But first we're going to start off in a completely different app because we need to make a watermark. So I'm going to start off here in Pixelmator Pro, but you can use any image editing app you want or grab a graphic off the internet. I'm going to create a small little graphic. Let's make it 200 pixels wide by 50 pixels high. Create it. And then I'm going to use this as the watermark. And I'll add some text in here. Let's make it fit into the space here. And then let's add a shape like a little star. And then I'll make that fit in here as well. And then I'll delete the background layer. So this is a transparent image here. And this is what we're going to use as our watermark. Okay, so now I'm going to export this in a format that supports transparency. So I'm going to do PNG here. I'm just going to save it to the desktop as watermark. And now I can see it right here. If I look in Quick Look, I can see how it's transparent right there. But let's not leave this here cluttering up our desktop. I'm going to go into the Documents folder and put it under Miscellaneous here. Just some place where it could permanently live since the shortcut is going to be calling on this PNG all the time. Now let's run the Shortcuts app and create a new shortcut. Let's call it Add Watermark. And you can customize the color and the icon if you like. The first thing we want to have is we want to set it so that it's a quick action and it appears in the Finder. So it's something where we can select an image and then call on this quick action to add a watermark. This will add receive any input from quick actions up here. We don't want any, so I'm going to select that and do clear. Select it again and do just images. And if there's no input, we could set it to ask for. So it'll ask for, let's ask for a file. So if you just were to run this normally and not select an image first, it would know to ask for a file to perform this action on it. Now the shortcut input here is going to be the image. So all we need to do is overlay something on top of that image. Let's look for overlay. And we can see there's overlay text, overlay image. That's what we want. So I'm going to double click to add that. It's going to overlay an image on an image. So the on part here is going to be the shortcut input. The overlay part is actually going to be a file. We haven't gotten that file yet. So let's go and look for an action that has to do with files. We'll do File here and we'll drag it before this. And then I'll click here and it'll ask us to select the file. So now we can go to that miscellaneous folder. We put the watermark right in here. We'll select it. So there's this file. So now overlay what? Well, let's click here and say select magic variable. Click the file that comes out of this action. So overlay file on shortcut input. Let's click show more. Show image editor is checked. Let's leave that checked for now and see what we get. So if I were to hide shortcuts and bring up an image. So here's an image on the desktop. I'll control click on that, right click or two finger click with the trackpad. You can see under quick actions there's add watermark. Let's try it. That's going to run the shortcut. And since we have the editor up here, it's going to bring up this editor here. And now we can drag the overlay to wherever we want. So I can put it here at the bottom right hand corner. I can actually even use the trackpad to pinch in with my fingers to shrink it down. Place it just where I want. And then I could set the opacity to if I wanted to fade it out a bit. When I'm done I can hit done. And that's it. We didn't save it anywhere so it didn't do anything. It didn't replace this image. This is still the same. So one thing we can do here that's really simple is bring up Quick Look. So Quick Look will take the results of this and we'll see, we'll say show overlaid image in Quick Look. So now if we were to do the same thing and do the quick action here, add watermark. Let's bring it down here, shrink it, put it right there. Done. It's going to bring up the result in Quick Look. And then we can use the share button here and we could share it to mail, messages, or we could open it in preview. And if we open it up in preview, now we can save it. So a lot of times you'll see shortcuts use this Quick Look action to end things and to give whoever is using the shortcut the ability to do all sorts of things with the resulting image. But we want to do better than that. First of all, we want to have it automatically put the watermark there and not bother us with positioning it and scaling it. Second is we want it to have it automatically saved to a new file at the same place as the original file, just with a slightly different name. So first let's get rid of Show Image Editor. If I turn that off, there are a bunch of different options like where to position the overlay. So we want to position it to the bottom right. So we'll choose this. But we're going to check it out in a minute here and see why that's not quite correct. Then we can make it semi-transparent if we want. We can rotate it. We can change the width and height if the image is too big. So now it shouldn't bother us with that editor there. We can use this, Quick Actions, add watermark. It should go right to Quick Look. And it does. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work. It takes a little too long for it to apply the overlay and Quick Look doesn't get the results. So let's, instead of viewing this in Quick Look, let's save it as a file. So to do that, we'll do Save and get Save File. So it's going to save the overlaid image. We do Show More and say Ask Where to Save. So let's try this now. I'll do Quick Actions and then Add Watermark. Then it's going to ask us where to save. I'll just choose the desktop here. And we can see we get the second image here. And if we look, we can see there's the watermark. Notice it's at the top right, not the bottom right. Remember I mentioned that before? Yeah, there seems to be a little bug here. You want to set this to top right for it to be on the bottom right for some reason. Probably something that will be fixed at some point in the future. Now what if instead of prompting us where to save the file, it just did it? Well, it turns out that's a little more complex than you would think. But we can do it. First thing is we need to get the path of the original file and the name of the original file. So let's look at File here. And there's one for Get Parent Directory. We're going to use that. We're going to stick it up here right at the top. Get Parent Directory of what? Well, we're going to Control click here and say Shortcut Input. So the parent directory of Shortcut Input. Great. Now let's also look for File Details. And there's Get Details of Files. Let's put that under here and say, well, let's get the name of what? Well, let's get the name of the shortcut input. So we have two things here, the parent directory and then name. Great. So instead of Ask Where to Save here at the bottom, let's turn that off and say Save Overlaid Image to where? Not the Shortcuts folder. Let's Control click that and say Magic Variable and then let's go to Parent Directory of the Shortcut Input. There we go. So save it to the parent directory. Now subpath is a fancy way of saying the name of the file, but you can include more like subfolders and things. So what we're going to do is start off here, Control clicking, inserting a variable, and we could do Select Variable here just to make sure we're grabbing the right thing and grab the name. And then we're going to add -new. And that will give it a name with -new after it. We could call it -watermark or whatever we want. And then we could say overwrite a file exists. So if we do this a couple of times, it's just going to overwrite it. It's not going to bother us about that. So now that we've got this, let's try it out. Let's Control click here, Quick Actions, Add Watermark. Now it's going to ask for permissions for the desktop folder only the first time we do this. Now you can see it created this second file here. If I look at it, you can see it's rainbow-new.jpg. There is the watermark there at the bottom right. And now we can very easily add watermarks to files without multiple steps or anything like that. As a matter of fact, if we look in the Finder here and then go to Desktop and then we bring up the Preview pane by going to View, Show Preview, we could even set this up as a quick action here. If you don't see it as one of the first two, you can go to More and you can see it there or customize to make it one of the first two quick actions. So I could just have this one here. I could select it and click that. And it'll create this new version here that has the watermark applied. And here is the complete thing. Remember that we definitely used under Show More here, no image editor, We set it to the top right so it's in the bottom right. And under Save we set the subpath to the name -new and turned on Overwrite if file exists, turned off Asked where to save. You can continue to build on this, and instead of just doing an overlay you can have more things. For instance, if you look here under Media you could see that there's a whole bunch of different things here. Cropping, flipping, rotating images, resizing images. You can convert images if you want. And if you have other apps installed you may see even more. For instance, Pixelmator Pro here will add a whole bunch of actions that you could perform on images. And you could certainly add these in place of the overlay action or in addition to that as well. Hope you found this shortcut useful, or at least as a useful starting point for creating your own shortcut. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.